Here's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you gumpers.
Bon dia, Alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast. How are you this morning? It is Wednesday, hump day, the 7th of June, 2023. Learn something new about Portugal every day here on the Good Morning Portugal show, where we have 4 guests for you this morning. We've got Tig James, who'll be popping in to talk to us about the citizenship situation for Brits post. Well, the situation with Brits is that they needed to apply for their WABC card post-Brexit, and then, of course, thereafter can apply for citizenship. But I think there's a bit of a blockage in the pipework, in the bureaucratic pipework, and we'll talk to Tig James about that. Today, this morning, she, of course, if you are in the Brits in Portugal group on Facebook, you'll have come across Tig, and she'll tell us about what she does on behalf of the Brits in Portugal. Astrid will be popping in at around 8:40 this morning to talk about the upcoming D8, the digital nomad visa, that is the subject of our webinar tomorrow evening. So we'll be talking to, I don't think it's Gilda we'll be talking to. We'll be talking to one of Gilda's colleagues about the digital nomad visa, also known, aka the D8, tomorrow evening for the Portugal Calling webinar tomorrow night from 7:30, expatsportugal.com, and thereafter at 9, the Dream Team session, of course. And we'll find out how easy or not the transitioning of the old Expats Portugal website was to the new site. So there's quite a lot of excitement at EPHQ in the last week or so. So we'll find out how that went from Astrid, who will join us also this morning. And those 2 gentlemen, Michael Heron, Heronius Maximus, will be back here for a happy hump day and talking about his aspirations. It's all centering around citizenship this morning, and we'll do our best to answer all your questions, and anything we can't answer, we'll get back to you on, because, of course, Dream Team session tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, is the ideal time to talk to Gilda about these matters. And we'll see Daniel Reyes of Reyes and Pelicano, who's also a citizenship specialist. So anything we can't deal with this morning, we can take over, carry forward to the Dream Team session at 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. And Bobby O'Reilly joins us with some special new visa news as well at 9:30 this morning. So a packed show. We better crack on, had we not? The opening title, or the opening image this morning, you may have seen if you were here right from the get-go, is of Astrid Gilberto, who sadly passed away a couple of days ago. Her Wikipedia entry, Astrid Gilberto, born Astrid Evangelina Weinert, with some German DNA in there, born 29th of March 1914, sadly passed away on the 5th of June 2023, Brazilian and samba and bossa nova singer and songwriter. Now, this is the important part. If you're not quite sure who Astrid Gilberto is and the significance of her in the world of music, the world generally, I would say, popular culture, she gained international attention in the 1960s following her recording of the song The Girl from Ipanema. Everybody knows that tune, don't they? And Astrid Gilberto there was married to João Gilberto and recorded with Stan Getz the tune Girl from Ipanema. And I made the comment in the past that when you're at a railway station in Lisbon, where I'll be headed today, actually going to Lisbon this lunchtime and afternoon, when you're waiting for a train, you hear ding, 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 and you hear the lady speaking. To me, I thought that Astrid Gilberto had grown up to become the railway announcer with the sexy voice that you hear announcing the trains in the Portuguese capital's railway stations. And there she is. She passed away 2 days ago and made that incredible impact on many of our minds, our musical subconscious and conscious minds. And for many of us, I think, as well, the first introduction to the Portuguese language, possibly. And that's the way many people hear Portuguese for the first time will, of course, be through Brazilian music. The girl from Ipanema was, of course, recorded in English. I'm sure there were Brazilian versions as well. But the tunes like that you may have heard in Brazilian, and Mais Que Nada, of course, by Sergio Mendes, and Brazil 66. These just a heyday for me of Brazilian popular music, and just an incredible impact on the world. So marking the passing then this morning of Astrid Gilberto, who passed away 2 days ago. And why not have a listen to the girl from Ipanema a little bit later on, and send you on your way today with an earworm of that kind, with a sultry voice of Astrid Gilberto. Apparently, when Stan Getz asked her to record the tune, they made the recording, sat in the control room of the recording studio, looked at each other, and Stan Getz said, "This is going to make you very famous." And he was absolutely right. What a tune, The Girl from Ipanema. Everybody knows that, don't they? So RIP, and thank you for your musical legacy, Astrid Gilberto. Okay, let's go see who's here this morning. Matty's in, Baddie's in. Great news from Baddie yesterday. Fantastic. So the Escritura was signed, and she managed to find a car in Porto as well. Great news. Well done, Baddie. Coach Turner then. Bon dia todos, and welcome to Hump Day. I have a free morning, so I'm off for a longish walk. Coffee may be involved. God Squad tip of the day from Coach Turner. There is some evidence that walking is better than running for burning fat due to the different energy source used. But for the majority of us, that's irrelevant. Walking is just more accessible. And unless you're going to be extreme about it, you don't notice it as hard work. So true. Yeah, pop to the shops, take the dog for a walk, take the cat for a walk, take, whatever. Take your neighbor. Don't take your neighbor for a walk. Go for a walk with your neighbor, friends. Perfect. And as Coach Turner does, mixes it up with a visit to the coffee shop. As a rule of thumb, 30 minutes a day will help improve health. Look at Coach Turner taking care of our health and well-being here. 60 minutes a day will help reduce weight and offset the good food and drink that make life special. As always, build up slowly. And if in doubt, check with your doctor. And I know that there are members of our community, Gumpers here, who have those newfangled watches which measure the distance walked, which I think helps a lot of people, doesn't it? You can celebrate how far you've walked this week, in the last month. So maybe we can have some recommendations of how easy it is to get going with one of those electronic devices that you sync up with your smartphone. I mean, I was looking at them in the supermarket the other day. I think they start from around 10 euros. So if you want to invest in that and keep track and celebrate the milestones of your perambulatory activity, why not? Can we have some recommendations on that? I'm sure Apple are all over it for those of you who are Apple device users. So how about that? How about sharing how far you've walked this week, this month, or even, the stats will be there, won't they, with one of those watches, how far you've walked in the last year, perhaps. T-Duck is here and was here from 7:52 this morning with a deep thought. I think I'm going to hold the Cane Sabia until Michael joins us, and I'll chat with Michael. I'm loving these because we're talking about tempura today. He's a bit of a foodie. Actually, so is Bobby as well. So tempura is what we'll be talking about, and of course a Portuguese invention and contribution to the world, although you may think it's Japanese in origin, which it isn't, kind of, in terms of its popularity around the world, but I think emanating from this fair land as well. Deep thought: there will always be someone who can't see your worth. Don't let it be you. Oh my goodness. Okay. The image I was going to go with, had I not thought better of it and put Astrid Gilberto on the screen, was this one. Don't be so hard on yourself. And that's the heart talking to the brain there. So often the way. And I think with our rational minds, we can tend to undervalue ourselves. But if we take that, that 12-inch journey from head to heart, perhaps we can open our hearts, and the first person we let in might be ourselves. You're doing well, Gumper. You're doing real good. Talk to yourself nicely. That self-talk can be very, very insidious, about making, oh, why did I do that? Oh, so stupid, blah, 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 blah. All that kind of talk, that negative self-talk. Why not give yourself a good talking to? Literally, as in talk to yourself in a nice and good way today. There will always be someone who can't see your worth. Don't let it be you, says Mel Robbins, who's given us some great value with some deep thoughts. And Dougie, saw you on, Dougie, sending us, you on Facebook there, Doug, sending us a deep thought for the day. Loving the deep thoughts, I think, this community. So thank you very much, T-Duck, for teeing those up and allowing me to smack them down the fairway every morning. Coming back to tempura a little bit later on. Mel Robbins, is the author of The 5-Second Rule and The High Five Habit. And I think it was a TEDx talk, wasn't it? We talked about yesterday how to unscrew yourself, I think, because her contribution to the TEDx, the catalogue of TEDx talks. We're going to give her a nice big round of applause now. She has arrived into the green room, nibbling on the virtual nibbles and drinking the virtual champagne in the green room. It's Astrid from Expats Portugal, everybody. How is the fizz back there this morning, Astrid?
How's the what? Sorry, Carl?
How are the fizz and nibbles in our virtual green room this morning? The hospitality could be...
Amazing. It's full of all my favourite things. Thank you for providing them.
It's a pleasure. Your favourite M&Ms as well, all the blue ones. Fantastic. You have to use your imagination quite hard in the Good Morning Portugal green room. How are you today? How's it going?
Not bad. A turn in the weather, though. I tell you, it's not so nice outside today.
It certainly isn't. What a shame. I'm off to Lisbon for lunch and for this afternoon, and I was hoping to be there, with iconic jacaranda trees and the sun beating down. It's not going to be happening today. Is it a little bit overcast and rainy over there in Cascais Way?
Yes, it is. But you'll still see the beauty of the jacaranda trees, Carl, even if there's a few clouds around.
Yes, can't wait to get there. And you had a busy week, I think, right?
Yeah. So we've had
when we last spoke, website business and so on. How's it going?
So we've had some of the new features be brought over. So people sort of get onto the website, they'll see that there are some changes, but it's still a work in progress. There's still more coming across. So yes, we progressively doing it.
Well, it's very pretty. Here it is here. That's what the new website looks like. Enough familiarity to know where you are, but buffed and polished up a little bit as well with some drop-down menus. If you're looking for the events, you just go up to the community tab in red there, and everything will drop down for you, including tomorrow night's webinar. Getting ahead of myself there. Tomorrow's special will be the all-important and the visa that everyone's talking about at the moment, Astrid, the D8.
Yes.
So that should be fun tomorrow night.
Yes, so we reached out to EI and said what are the most frequently asked questions at the moment? What is the hot topics that everyone wants to know about? And of course, it's about the D8, the digital nomad visa. So Carolina is going to be covering everything in relation to that because that's her area of expertise. So she's she was the guest with Christina last time. So she's an absolutely amazing young lawyer there at EI. So she's going to be joining us to answer all the questions about the digital nomad visa. So come on if that's of interest to you and get involved.
Fantastic. And we're talking about citizenship today. Got Tig James joining us from Brits in Portugal in a little while. And of course, a topic that we can pick up and run with on the Dream Team session tomorrow night after the webinar from 9 o'clock in the company of the likes of Gilda and Daniel Reyes. I'm really enjoying that session. And I think others are too, right, Astrid, on 9 o'clock on a Thursday evening?
Yes, it's been going well. And the replays on YouTube are very high too. So obviously it's... not everyone can join us live, but they're definitely watching it afterwards. So it's good. I love it. I think it's a really friendly environment and get down and chat with everybody and get your questions answered and just get involved. It's kind of fun.
And see Gilda talking to me in the way that she does. That if you missed that from a Monday morning, you can catch it on a Thursday evening where she catches me out and corrects me from time to time, which people have grown to love, sardine cooking and that sort of thing. And find out how that little rascal Mandela is as well. We have a kind of pets corner at 9:30 when we find out how everybody's pet's doing, especially Mandela, who seems to be growing up into quite a well-behaved young gentleman. And then a question to conclude with about some aspect of Portuguese life from all the panel there. So very, very helpful, very informative session, even if I say so myself. And going back to some of your feedback here, Astrid at Expats Portugal. Look at this. Expats Portugal has helped us with our decision to move to Portugal. Premium membership is a great investment and the discounts are an added bonus, say Joyce and Jason. Thank you, Jerry and Astrid, for your help and chat. You provided some great snippets of info, pearls of wisdom, and also confirmed some of our existing thoughts. It makes moving much less stressful. The forum provides a friendly and supportive environment, a great resource. So all good feedback coming in.
Yes, we love it. It makes it all worthwhile, Carl. That the hard work and effort, it certainly pays off when we get nice compliments like that. So thank you, everybody who has contributed to the site, and and making this so much fun.
Right. Now, on a rainy day here in Portugal, people want to come here, don't they? I was with a couple who were visiting Portugal for the first time last night, trying snails actually for the first time. Didn't go down terribly well with Norman. He's Glaswegian Norman, thought he'd try the snails and had to kind of hypnotize himself into believing he was eating mushrooms, which made it all the better for him. And he ended up, he couldn't stop eating them in the end, though he had an initial difficult reaction with them. And people, when they come into Portugal, they think it's going to be sunny and not rainy and stormy like it might be today. What would you recommend to people on a rainy day here in Portugal? Where to go if you're in Lisbon or nearby?
I still love the seaside. Well, not so much when it's raining, but if it's overcast, I still love the seaside for that choppy ocean view. And near me here, near Carcavelos Beach, you can watch all the big ships. In fact, when I was driving home from dropping the kids off at school this morning, I saw a huge cruise ship coming in, and it's kind of breathtaking, even with the weather that's not so great. But let's hope that it all clears up, Carl, because on Saturday night I'm off to the opening of the Sardine Festival here in Lisbon, in Cascais.
Oh, what's that like? Tell us about that.
Well, apparently, it's my first time, so a girlfriend of mine's recommended that we go along. She says it's lots of fun. It's very traditional, with music playing and sardines being barbecued everywhere, and like the little villages, the way they do their festivals. So very, very traditional, very authentic. But yeah, to kickstart the start of the sardine season.
How is that for an Aussie going into Portuguese barbecue culture? Is it a little bit difficult, or is it a nice, easy transition?
Well, I think the Australians take the shortcut and use a lot of gas barbecues.
Oh,
Whereas here in Portugal, it's a lot of coal barbecue. So it's a very different experience, a different type of barbecue. But in Australia, we use the gas barbecue like an extension of the kitchen. You just go out, turn it on, cook your meat, and that's it. Whereas here with the coal barbecues, you need to prepare it. You need to know an hour in advance that you're going to be having your barbecue and get your coals on and get it all.
Okay.
It's a bit more of a skill, I think, to maybe cook on coals than it is the old gas barbecue. So, yeah.
Good observations. Different kinds of alpha males. The Aussies there with their gas barbecues and probably a range of different models and makes. And here, I think the older Portuguese gentleman likes to use his veg coals. And as you say, it takes a little bit more preparation, part of Portuguese culture here, and the upcoming Santos Populares festivals and the grilling of sardines. Astrid, good to see you. We'll see you tomorrow evening.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you for the Digital Nomad Visa webinar tomorrow night. Wishing you a great day, even though it's rainy. Still get to the beach, Astrid says, because it's still kind of dramatic and brooding, isn't it, on that Atlantic coast, even in the rainy weather. Cheers, Astrid.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye for now. Ciao, ciao. There she goes. Right, and if you want to click through and become a member of Expats Portugal, the link is there on the screen to do that right now. As is a comment from Aviva, Ocean Dweller Aviva, Bon de Alegria, rain in Funchal as well. So a Madeiran weather forecast too. Pete's in, Nubianet James. Hola, Aviva, says James there. And his name this week, it's not Dun Dun Dun, it's Dun Dun. I still haven't looked up Foghat and their slow ride tune. I must do that. Maybe on the way to Lisbon today. Matty is here with comments as well that I want to read out, as is Owen, Chris Smith too. Fantastic. And we'll check in with Baddy whilst we're waiting for Tig to join us. And I better keep an eye on Tig joining us for the first time. Been wanting to talk to Tig James of Brits in Portugal for quite a long time. And okay, all is well behind the scenes. She'll be joining us soon. And before she does, let's see. Mr. S has a question for us. What do you to remain legal in Portugal while the citizenship is in process? Oh, is this when you don't have the right amount of accumulated months, Mr. S? Might need a bit more clarification on what you describe as the dichotomy between the immigration laws of Portugal and Schengen in general. Yeah, a little bit of a grey area there. And sometimes, although Seth might say, no, it's fine, just take that piece of paperwork with you or the email, other border patrols might not be quite so easygoing about all of that. I think that's the gist of your question. Having a Dire Straits morning and remembering seeing them in 1978 at Dunstable Town Hall. Wow. Money for nothing and chicks for free, even back in them days, eh? Mainly moist morning, midweek. That's very nice. Nice alliteration there, Pete. Thank you very much. And hola, I'm here in your time zone. I need an umbrella, so welcome. Yes. Yes. Nubianet has arrived here in the capital by the sound of it. Are you hanging around in Lisbon for a little while, just soaking up the Lisbon vibes? I'm so sorry the weather isn't picture postcard Portugal, and more of that moody and magnificent Atlantic stuff that Astrid was talking about. So forgive us that, Nubianet. Let us know though, are you having a good time? Bon dia, noobs, from Pete. So lovely to have you here. Don't worry, the weather is set to brighten up later in the week. I've heard it's going to be stormy later in the week, but you never know, do you? No, you don't know these days. Not like when I was a kid and you had 4 distinct seasons. Probably not. Bon dia, alegria a todos de Pombal. Is it chuva or console? Over there, Matty. And bon dia, folks, from Baddy. Feeling privileged to have the assistance of my house guest during the search for a car. You were kicking tires together, were you, yesterday? Yesterday, we took a road trip, and today we have a 2008 Citroen C4. Oh, that's like a sort of mid-sized vehicle, isn't it, for carrying people, I think. Is that the Picasso C4? Nice motor. Thanks, Suze, for the help. Does Suze know a thing or two about motors? Are you available, Suze, to help others? Tell us a bit more about that car buying process, Baddy. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it? Going shopping and then coming home with the car. Not everybody can do that. Welcome to Portugal, officially from Matty, to you, Nubianet. And Pete, says Nubianet, just when I leave Lisbon for Porto, I'll be back the last week of June. Okay, so having a few weeks here by the sound of it, Nubianet. Great to have you in the same time zone. Do keep in touch and let us know how we can help you. Congratulations, Baddy, from Pete. Glad you had fun getting it. We have a cats as well. What? Same sort. Oh, we have maybe one of those as well, C4. So, same sort of model, and it's very cheap to run and efficient if a little underpowered. You're used to the electric, aren't you? Putting your foot down in that great big bumper car of yours and off. You get stuck to the seat. In the Tesla. So I guess, yes, petrol doesn't compare to that, does it? But unless you're in a Formula One a fossil fuel car. Bon dia from Chris Smith. How are you, Chris? I've been interesting reading your recent Facebook adventures, causing trouble in bars around America. And James, very pleased to see you here as well. Newbie, you made it. Bem-vinda to you. I am very pleased that my channel subscription is heading to 177 currently. Nicely done there with the statistics. It's nearly at 100, although it's currently at 77. Matty, why don't you put the direct link in so that we can get you a few more subscribers this morning? We just turned over 1,300 on the Good Morning Portugal YouTube channel. So thank you to each and every one of you and all the GMP VIP supporters. I don't thank you enough for your support of the show. If you want to support the show and take advantage of that offer of €9, rather than 19 for the GMP VIP membership, just pop over to gmpvip.com. Finally, yes! Banana slug from Nubianet and a little sleepy emoji as well. So maybe a little bit of jet lag and you're just catching up with your feet on Portuguese terra firma. Regarding walking, so funny. When in Pombal, I rarely get to 10K steps. When on my Quinta, I get there every day without even leaving my farm. It's interesting, isn't it? Yes. When you're distracted by other matters, you can just clock up those steps, can't you? And I guess when you think about it too much, it's like walking itself, isn't it? If you start thinking about walking, you can fall over. But if you just let your body get on with it and just go about your business, it's amazing how all those steps add up. Yes, any recommendations for devices, please, for measuring your steps? I think they are very good value now. They're not the stuff of science fiction. I think you can get a real bargain when it comes to a watch that you can wear that will measure your various bodily functions. I wonder how. I don't know how much detail we need to go into with that. Although there's probably a German watch, isn't there, that is very. How can I put it? Particular about the measurement of bodily functions. Morning all, from what I've heard anyway. Morning all, fantastic news, buddy. Welcome, Nubianet. Isn't it a great day this morning with all this good news? We will definitely try and catch you in the last week of June. Says Pete to you, Nubianet. Celebrating your arrival here. James, can't keep up with your ever-changing channel names and images. Yeah, there's a slight sort of complaint. Have you got your complaints book, please, James, so that we can all complain about that? If you could put the link for that, that'd be awesome. Once had lunch in the restaurant in Ipanema where the song was written. Seriously? That's a claim to fame, isn't it? Wonderful. And I guess that earworm will be in your head today, as it probably was on the day. Can you imagine the waiting staff have heard many a rendition of The Girl from Ipanema in that restaurant where it was first written? Incredible. Yesterday, says Nibinet, talking of walking, 3.5 miles and spent most of the day at Heathrow. Yes, and if you catch a plane from Lisbon Airport going out of Lisbon on one of the budget airlines, you will also rack up a few especially if you don't catch the coach to the other terminal, as you feel like you're being herded. And I used the word correctly there, to the other terminal. It's as though they've built another airport and they're taking you there at Lisbon, almost to the other side of the water or up into Santarém. So a few miles wandering about Heathrow possibly yesterday. And that's what I do. If I get to the airport nice and early, which I like to do tend to go wandering about in the airport too. Yes, I think we're the same there, Nubianet. Commiserations, Noobs, not the nicest place to be. Yeah, Heathrow, it really isn't. That yellow signage that they have there, is it yellow and grey? Probably looked good, didn't it, back in the 80s? It looks really tired now, doesn't it, as often the staff appear to be as well. I'm just going to check in on Tiggs. A few problems logging in. Give me a few minutes. Okay, let's just say... no, should we say calma, tranquilo, or no? Let's go with no hurry, shall we? No worries. Take your time. Take your time. It's horrible getting stressed before you're joining a Zoom call, isn't it, or an interview or something like that. So, if you are tuned in and watching, no worries, no hurry. Take your time, and I'm sending you that message now as well, so that you don't get technologically stressed. Just see what you can do, and we'll do our best to have you on here and have that conversation with you about Brits moving from residency into citizenship. Matty can't post the link to his own YouTube channel, and there's probably a really good reason for that, isn't there, to stop people spamming the comments. I wonder if I can do it, though. Perhaps I can. I think that's going in there now. I think as the host, I'm allowed to post the links into the chat. Oh, Mark's here as well. Yes, I am. So if we could give Matty a few more subscriptions to his channel this morning, it is YouTube /@Quinta-Entre-Aguas, the farm between the rivers there. Perfect. Okay, Tig's with us now. And let's give her a moment to have a sip of water and take a couple of breaths. Because it looks like it might have been a little bit stressful behind. It's horrible when that happens. Let's say hello to Linda this morning. I quite like Lisbon Airport. Me too, don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit of a disappointment or a surprise, isn't it? It's a surprise when you get to the departure terminal and then you have to take a bus ride to a nearby town to actually get your plane. Yes, plenty of walking. Have a nice day, says Linda. Lovely to see you here, this Linda. As it is Jason as well. Good news from your direction as well, Jason, if you want to share. And Mark's in as well. Bondi Algria. Shopping online. Okay, that's how to get a car. Pick the best of the bunch on offer. Go see that car. And if you're lucky, Bob's your uncle. Do you say that in Iceland as well? Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt. I wonder. Is that the whole phrase that you say in Iceland as well? Andy is in. Hola, bon dia, Pashol. My missus helps do our local village sardinhada. I support from the other side of the counter. I bet you do. Especially helping with the clearing up of the free wine. Tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Nice one by Randy. Have a beautiful day there in the Bairrada district. Let's give her a nice big round of applause and bring her onto the screen now. Good morning, Tig. How are you? Was that a little bit stressful?
Yeah, I've got a MacBook.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And Safari does not support the platform of this, you see. So it was like, it's downloading Chrome and then getting in.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, very occasionally, people who are Mac users do have that problem because, of course, you will be using your own Mac software, won't you, for browsing? And this particular StreamYard system likes to use Chrome. So apologies for any stress that's been caused to you. In some ways, you're here to talk about a stressful situation, aren't you? Before we go into that, can you tell us about British in Portugal and what you do there, Tig? Lovely to meet you after all this time, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a long time, isn't it?
Yes, yes. We've known each other online, but never spoken in this way. So
yeah, absolutely.
welcome.
I co-lead British in Portugal with Rory Stewart, not the MP.
Decent to add.
Yeah. I wouldn't actually you say that, I actually wouldn't mind a conversation with him because I think he's be interesting.
We'll see if we can organise it. Wouldn't that be a scoop?
I'd love that. Yeah.
Yes.
I would. It'd be interesting. Interesting to see. Because he's teamed up with what's his name? Alistair Campbell, isn't he?
Really? I'm not having Alistair Campbell on this show. So I've got to draw the line somewhere from the point of view of public decency. No way.
We've got two, really sort of conflicting, ideologies coming together. And they do podcasts and interviews. And it's really, I think it'd be interesting. Anyway,
I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for a bit of, people with different views coming together. Otherwise, how are we going to grow and learn and evolve our thinking? So yeah, well up for that, but not a big fan of the Campbell. But anyway, yes, British in Portugal then.
Yeah, I co-lead. Obviously co-lead it with Rory. And basically it all happened 6-7 years ago with 7 years ago now, isn't it, with the referendum. Rory set up the group, had a few members on it. I joined because I like everybody else, when the referendum happened, it's like, what happens now?
Yeah, right.
Are we what do we do? Are we okay in Portugal? Aren't we okay in Portugal? And of course nobody had any answers. So I was, and Rory saw me on the group and he said, would you mind being an admin? Because he saw some of the comments that I was making. I went, yeah, okay. And it just basically, it was that simple. It started from there. And we just started working together to try and help as many people as possible as we started to find out the answers. And it was just, I can honestly say 2016, 2017 was chaos. Absolutely. Yeah, right. Because nobody knew. That was the problem. Normally, sort of if you've got a health problem, you go to a doctor. If you got something wrong with your car, you go to a mechanic. But nobody knew. So we were literally having to find our way through it. And in the end, I then joined a group called Brexpats Hear Our Voice, and they were actually overseen by sort of overseen by British in Europe, which is the umbrella group for all the British in groups across Europe.
Of course, because it's not just Portugal, is it?
No.
Brexpats, that's interesting. That's not a phrase that's stuck around, is it? Brexpats, but that is still a group of people.
It's it's. So I was just trying to turn off my.
Don't worry, we have a busy environment here. I'm going to add to it. I'm going to bring on another of our friends here. We're going to, because he might have something to say about this as well. Michael Heron. Let's give him a nice big round of applause because he may have questions for you as well. And he's a Brexpat.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you, Michael Heron. And I'm bringing you into the screen. We can be here with Tig James from British in Portugal. Would you describe?
Hi, Tig. Very nice to meet you.
And you?
Have you ever described yourself as a Brexpat, Michael?
No. So I moved here before Brexit. So.
I see. Okay, all right, fair enough.
And we don't, and it's not a term expat or anything that we actually use. It was the name of the group was, and they've had big problems with it because they don't even like the fact that expat is in it because we're immigrants.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Tig, because I have no problem in saying I'm an immigrant. It's absolutely fine.
We are British immigrants in Europe and in Portugal. We are immigrants, whether people like it or not. British. I mean, and I'm going to be really unpopular now.
Come on, Tig.
UK nationals, whether you are immigrants in this country.
Can we
That's
not call
it.
ourselves brimmigrants?
Immigrants.
Hey, that's not bad, mate. That's pretty good
That's,
for you.
that's,
Actually. Well done.
that's not bad for 9 o'clock in the morning.
And then if you're from Birmingham, you could be a brummigrant as well, couldn't you? Which is a special niche. A special niche.
By the way, can I just say I'm loving the new staging, mate. Whenever I think you can't take it up another notch, you do it, mate. I'm proud of you, man.
Now, Tig, we'll come back to the main reason why you're here in just a moment. Sorry about all these diversions and transgressions here, but every day there will be something new in the foliage. Can you see what it is today, Michael Heron?
I mean, I don't watch you every day. I'm not going to lie, so I've got no clue. But there's a bottle of alcohol in there somewhere.
Yes, well spotted. It's Beirão. It's not just any old bottle of alcohol. It's a Portuguese bottle of Beirão, the medicinal.
It's horrendous, mate. I'm not going to lie. I do not enjoy that drink at all. I've tried it multiple times. It's horrible.
A very controversial atmosphere this morning. So you're not expats, you're immigrants. You might be a immigrant, and he doesn't like Beirão. Tig, where do we go from here?
I don't know. I actually do like Beirão.
Me too. Me too.
Can I just leave now?
Okay, let's get rid of
you drink something else.
There we go.
Right. Hey, sorry. So what happened after this situation, of course, and you've been very helpful with the British foreign national community here, is guiding them towards the WABC card system and to get registered and do that. And the next difficult bit, it would seem, and why you're here today, is to talk about what happens after that, right? How Brits go from being WABC residents into citizenship. So there's a little bit of a blockage in the bureaucratic pipeline, perhaps?
It's not so much a blockage as that I think we need to start being really careful. Okay. And I don't think it's, for want of a better word, a deliberate act by the Portuguese institutions here. I just don't think they realise and understand that things have changed for us and how they've changed. For instance, let me go back to what you've just said, because quite a few people still don't understand what WABC means. It's the withdrawal. It's the withdrawal agreement biometric card, which is basically the residency document that UK nationals have when they were resident before Brexit, pre-2021. So we come under the withdrawal agreement. Therefore, we have this, we had residency, which we then had to exchange for the withdrawal agreement biometric card. People often get confused with that they've got a biometric card and they think it's a withdrawal agreement. No, it isn't. If you came after 2020, you get an ordinary biometric card and you're treated as every other third country national, because we're no longer EU citizens. So you get treated as Americans, Canadians, Chinese, whatever, any other country outside of Europe, you get treated the same. So basically everybody that was resident in Portugal pre-2021, they should have a withdrawal agreement biometric card. I say should because not everybody has. And I say this quite happily. If people wish if people are still having a problem getting their biometric card, withdrawal agreement biometric card, by all means, message me on Messenger and I will try and figure it out. Yeah, because the system is just too difficult for people, because CEF, again, I understand why they haven't got the finances, so they're doing what they can with what they've got, and that's why all the delay has been for us as well. But again, the delay was completely unacceptable, totally unacceptable. It's caused huge, enormous problems. People have lost businesses, driving licenses, can't get healthcare, and people still can't get healthcare. And that to me is, they're putting people's lives at risk, and that I will never, ever accept as being reasonable. I can't.
Well, I have no idea this is going on. I mean, of course, these changes, when they're broad brush political moves, you never really know what's going to happen subsequently, do you? And then you find out, you get into the long grass. And I'm surprised to hear that on a personal level, of course, this is where things are struggled with and suffered. The impact of this has been pretty terrible then for some people, you say?
It has been horrendous.
Right.
It's absolutely horrendous. And bearing in mind as well, because not having their withdrawal agreement biometric cards has meant that what they do is they'll go to the health centre to try and get registered, and they won't be registered. The health centres flatly refuse to register people without the withdrawal agreement biometric card, because they now say you should have a biometric card.
Wow.
And so, oh gosh, yes. And even with EU residency, as people were rushing to get here, and even people that hadn't rushed to get here that were residents, quite legally residents, they were going to health centres, and the health centres were refusing to register them because, oh no, you need this and you need that, because they didn't understand their own systems.
My goodness. Right.
So I still have people that aren't registered for healthcare.
So they've done their bit. They've done what they needed to do, which is to get their WABC card, and then they're struggling at the front end there with help. Did you know all this was going on, Michael?
Yeah.
You did, right? Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with the immigration system in Portugal, like, because I remember back in the day, if you went, and it's not just with the CEF, it's with any institution in Portugal, depending on who you get to, attend you there, you can get different information. And there's never consistency. There never has been. And that's why it's probably a good idea to use a professional like Tig or an immigration lawyer, because they will know everyone there and they'll make sure that they get everything sorted.
Yeah.
And you're advocating then for people, Tig. That's what you're doing, is it, in this situation? This difficult
basically. It's I work with the embassy, and we just try and sort out the mess that this is. I mean, what happened was last year in August, because all we kept getting was excuses. Would you believe one of the excuses CEF used was that people were on holiday, was the reasons why they didn't issue our biometric.
Yeah, in Portugal, that's valid.
It is, yeah. I mean, which holiday are we talking about?
Yeah, which one? Yeah, how many? Then and it was constant. Then it was COVID. Then it was Ukrainian refugees and whatever. But it was just excuses.
Right.
It was absolute excuses, and we were getting nowhere. And then, I mean, the tin lid for me, when I thought, I'm so done with this now. But whatever I did, it made no difference. And I knew the embassy were working very hard as well. They were getting nowhere. It was just nonsense. And I had got people who were seriously ill. Many people I had people with COVID that were refused oxygen.
My goodness, because they didn't have the right paperwork.
Because they didn't have the right paperwork and refused treatment in the pandemic. I'd got people with cancer. I'd got people with life-threatening illnesses, could not get healthcare. And all sorts of people were coming to me, thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming to me, and we were getting nowhere. So basically, last August, I said, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And it was so funny. I was sat here one night and I got really angry. I got really cross. And I very rarely get angry. I get irritated, but I don't get angry. I got angry.
On this particular day, they took you you hulked, did you?
I did. I turned into this huge green monster and I said, I'm done. And basically I hit the press button. And I did a massive press spray. I said, I'm done with this. Right. And thankfully, and I mean, the first one that picked it up was The Guardian, which was brilliant. And then it just, it was excellent. Then the Telegraph, basically, and it was great. BBC Radio 5 picked it up with me. And I just hit everybody that I knew because I was so done. And it went worldwide. And that I've been categorically told is the sole reason we now have our biometric cards, because the Portuguese government were embarrassed globally were embarrassed into. And bearing in mind, you've got to look at this in other respects politically as well. The British Embassy, the ambassador. I had met Portuguese MPs. I'd met British MPs. I had meetings with them, and nothing happened. And all the same excuses were being given to them. Yeah.
Well, it was a perfect storm of excuses, that's for sure, wasn't it?
Absolutely, but it was at the highest level. These excuses were being given.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely unacceptable. And so, it was then and. Then what happened was, of course, I did the press, and of course they virtually, the embarrassment was so great that it appears that they then decided to move, and they did then very quickly, within a few weeks, within a month, suddenly it started to move, and contracts were being given to the camera officers to help people locally.
And then we ended up with this system, right, to get people processed and dealt with. Right. Well, thank you, Tig, for doing that.
Thank you.
I had no idea all of this was going on behind the scenes. It's just like this is all very seamless. So thank you. I have mine with me right here as a result. Well, now you've set it all up and put that pressure on, and it's occurred in this way. It is a fairly easy process, right? When you get your booking and go and do the do, or has it been difficult for some people?
For some, it's been incredibly difficult, and again, it's because of the glitches in the SEF system, which comes as no surprise to most people. It's okay when it's easy, it's an absolute doddle.
Yeah.
One of the glitches on the SEF system is the payment process. And what they actually do is that you get a payment code, don't you? You have the payment thing come through, and you click on it, and you try and pay, but you have to wait 48 hours. But they don't tell you that.
Oh, so you're freaking out because you think it's just gone hanging there in the internet.
It's not working. So we've tried to calm it. Just wait 48 hours, and please, and big capital letters on everything. Please wait 48 hours, and then you can do it through your bank, and it's absolutely fine. But the trouble is quite a few, it didn't work.
Oh dear.
So they didn't pay. Then, of course, you've got so they are in absolute limbo because the system says they've had their appointment, that their card is being issued, but they haven't paid yet, but they can't pay. So, and they're just stuck in this limbo. And then you've got other people that have paid that the SEF system says they haven't.
Oh dear. I can imagine they're stuck then, aren't they? They're locked in some kind of...
And I've seen bank accounts, obviously they've showed me, they've given me the bank accounts with the actual entry in that they've paid, and SEF just won't accept it.
Because it's not on their system. That's often how it works, isn't it? We need to see it on our system. Doesn't matter what you've got there, right?
Doesn't matter what proof you've got.
Right. Apparently, this is no question to ask a first-time visitor to the show. Did you rip a blouse? This is your hulking out moment. But thank goodness you did. Basically,
it was close.
Well, thank you for doing all of that, Tig. And then we move on now to the next part of the adventure, as it were, in relationship to SEF. And this is where people have been here for 5 years and want to convert from residency to citizenship. It's a process that Michael is going through, and Tony says as soon as that clicks over 5 years, we're applying. What's the problem then for Brits doing that?
The problem is, can I just go back to what we were talking about, though, all the issues, because there are many other issues.
For sure. Now we've got you here. Yes. Yeah. Michael and I are riveted.
There's many other issues of the cards not being delivered and then being returned to SEF, and then people can't find them. Then you find out that they might be actually at your local SEF office, so you go and you're not let in. They won't let you see anybody, so you go away and you can't make an appointment to get it. So there's so many issues with the cards even now. And as I say, if anybody has any of those issues, message me on Messenger, and I'll see what I can do. Because the other issue is we've got a phone number and we've got an email we can write to. When you email, they email back saying ring. When you ring, they say email. You're in a cycle and a circle that you can't break.
Kafka-esque loop, yes.
And you can imagine people need these cards, absolutely need these cards. And I don't know if you actually know about another issue that happened, that people were actually getting arrested, detained at airports. Did you see that?
Oh, stop it, Tig. I thought I applied for my card, got it. I'm thinking everything's tickety-boo behind it. People getting arrested. What happened?
We've had, now let me get this, it's either 3 or 4 people were detained at airports because they didn't have their biometric cards. And effectively, the systems at the EU airports that...
Oh, this is in other countries? So they've flown somewhere else?
No, they've flown to another EU country, and the EU residency documents or cards that we had, and then the QR code that we had that in the system for the withdrawal agreement biometric cards wasn't being accepted.
Right.
So
And then,
so they were getting to EU airports, and they were going, well, no, this isn't the correct documentation. It's not a biometric card. And people are going, well, yeah, this is all we've got. This is the legal documents, which of course it was. Absolutely.
yeah, as best to their best of their knowledge. And then they get, can you come with me, please?
Absolutely. And
touch your toes time.
Yeah, like you say, you are in your flip-flops and shorts, thinking you're going to have a few beers in wherever, and then you're being escorted to a room with one of those mirrors in it. My goodness.
Where I was getting phone calls from.
Wow. So people thought of you as the first person to ring.
Yeah,
when they had their phone call.
it was interesting, isn't it? Because you don't sort of quite know how far your reach is.
Yeah.
And then it was just, well, and so I would be sat here at night, and I'd suddenly get these massive phone calls, you know, sort of like, and I go, don't panic, just calm down. We'll sort it out and whatever. And basically, we finally managed to get down to what the actual issue was, because why on earth were these people being read? But what had happened was that there's 2 books that the EU border controls have, okay? And in these books, what basically happens is that they list the documentation, the correct documentation that people should have if, say, they're resident in Portugal, and they outline the documents. Well, they weren't there, were they?
What, Seth had forgotten to update the book? Right, okay, maybe.
Let's just say I still have not quite got to the bottom of who omitted to put the correct documentation in.
My goodness. Well,
consequently,
Seth know you by name, don't they?
The worst part is that basically these people were removed, and we had people removed to the UK. It's put on a plane and sent to the
No
UK.
way. So it wasn't like we'll just do a quick phone call and everything will be fine to Seth. It's like you're going back to the Blighty.
I tried that.
Right.
Tried that. Didn't work. And basically, yeah, they had to get flights, and they had to then one set left, were allowed to eventually get on, as long as it was out of the EU, which they did. But then they spent thousands getting flights to have to avoid the EU because they were put on the system as overstaying, of course.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea, Tig. This is incredible what you're telling us. Yeah, and we're not even at citizenship yet, are we?
Sorry?
We're not even at
citizenship. Oh, no, not yet. How much time have you got?
Well, you should stick around. Bobby O'Reilly is going to be joining us soon. He might want to join us sooner rather than later and say this himself. You need to take legal action as a joint group against him personally and as a department, and watch what happens. And that does seem to shift things. Your press work seemed to change things. And I know some people were suing who were golden visa applicants.
Well, now in Portugal, you can class action lawsuits in Portugal are now possible. They weren't up until recently. So that is a viable option.
Yeah.
So think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. And obviously it's something we've considered, and I was looking seriously into last year. But the biggest issue, of course, is finances. We're a volunteer group. We aren't paid, and we do all this for free. So,
and on a regular basis, presumably, Tig, you think, what am I doing here? I'm volunteering here, and I'm ringing up immigration offices around the world. People are ringing me, and I can see exactly why you hulked out that time, and wonder why you might be doing this from time to time.
I think. But the reason that I continue this, I think there's lots of reasons why I do it. But I mean, the biggest issue is where else do people go?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because even lawyers are completely unaware. I mean, we have got so many lawyers on British in Portugal because they keep up to date with us, because the withdrawal agreement is so new and people don't understand it. I know of somebody the other day that was completely misinformed by a lawyer as to what to do. Completely misinformed. And it's just, and that is, and of course, I have the additional problem of people saying to me, my lawyer, I say, well, your lawyer's wrong.
No, okay.
And of course,
Right.
some people, they're a lawyer, and I say, yeah, but they're wrong. You need to do this, this, and this, and of course, and they've got no, fine, okay, I've said what you need to do. It's up to you now, okay. And every so often, I will get a call or a message back going, "It's really sorry, you were right," But the lawyer tag has been a real issue with me because but thankfully, like I say, we've got a stack of lawyers on British in Portugal who just sit there and just get all the information, which is fine.
My goodness.
It is what it
Tig,
is.
we're gonna bring Bobby on a bit early because he's nodding as like he's heard one or two of these things before. Let's give him a nice big round of applause and a welcome to the Good Morning Portugal show.
Morning,
Bobby,
all.
all right, good morning to you.
Well done,
Let
Tig,
me
by the way. Congratulations on all the hard work you've been doing. Hats off to you. Fantastic work.
Have you met before, you two?
No.
Are you known to each other?
No.
No, actually.
You're
first,
hearing things here, Bobby, that you were nodding behind the scenes there, thinking, yeah, right on, Tig.
Heard it all. And agree with her 100%, as you've heard me say many times in this program, that CEF is an absolute disaster. Has been from day one. It's a non-functional department within the Portuguese system. And it's like what Tig said as well, it depends nearly who you meet at the counter. Like my kids, we're here over 10 years. My kids at the moment don't have actually cards at the moment, and we're living here 10 years, and we're European. During the COVID time, they were meant to renew, and they wouldn't take any meetings because everyone was working from home as they were. And how would you say, we were trying to get another appointment. Now we're more or less getting an appointment sorted out for them to go and get their cards. But we had an issue even coming back from Dubai during COVID because at the time you couldn't fly into Portugal unless you actually had a Portuguese residency, etc. from the Dubai. And our kids didn't have, they had their passports, they had that we were, and they were brought into a separate room and questioned, do you know mommy and daddy, etc. All this kind of stuff, where do you live? Yeah, and it's all because we knew her. Yeah. Honest to God. So, like, I've recognized everything that she said. The thing is that CEF is broken up into different departments itself. One has been dealing with golden visa. One has been dealing with normal Portuguese residency issues, etc. as well. And then there's different types of other residencies that they all deal with. And depending on the queue and depending on how many people they have, and then if your stack of applications. I had one case, which was very early days golden visa. It's going to sound really strange, but I had one guy, he was waiting 2.5 years for them to find his application. And it was because one of the ladies who was in, and this was the excuse, the lady who went on maternity leave and was in her drawer.
Right.
So, like, the thing is that what I did find, and you just mentioned it now, renewals for the golden visa and the residency program has been an absolute nightmare for most people. And you're talking about people that are coming from the far side of the world, and they're getting appointments for one family member, and it could be their 14-year-old daughter, which means they have to come with her. And then they'll say, can we do it while we're here? No, you can't. It's just this particular member, etc. And they don't. Now what's happened is the law firms have started taking them to court. They basically started taking individual cases to court, but they've gone to all their clients and said, listen, we're going to sue them, and we're going to sue them because actually they're now breaking the law because they have basically 3 months to reply, as you probably know, but it doesn't matter here. To break the law. And as soon as they get the actual papers, they get their appointments. And that's what's been happening. So they're now prioritizing to stay out of court. And I know what you're saying from a legal finance point of view, but if you can get one of your law firms that you're dealing with to say that, listen, okay, I'll take on everybody, basically as individuals, but as a joint group, and maybe that they can soften the cost with regards the legal fees, because it's repetitive stuff, to be honest. Yeah. It might move things along a bit quicker. I don't know. It's just a suggestion, but I see for sure it's working on the golden visa side. There's just a huge drag and a no care attitude. They don't care, like you said. You get in and the computer says no. That's all I get the whole time is computer says no.
But it was actually in court though, wasn't there? There was a court case where it was won because of the delay.
Yeah, no.
I wrote an article about it actually. It was last year, I think. Yeah, it was a young Brazilian lawyer. He took them to court on behalf of the client and won, and overturned precedent. So he's been doing it quite a lot. So I think it's
they're doing it on an ongoing basis.
You say you wrote an article. Can you tell us what skin in the game you have? I mean, as an individual, you're applying for citizenship, and we'll come back to TIG to find out what's going on with that for Brits. But as an individual, you're applying for citizenship, and you work with lawyers and in the legal framework here.
Yeah, so I have a consultancy business, and we mainly work with corporate law firms. So we don't tend to work with law firms that work with individuals, in immigration and that kind of thing. But I also edit a magazine that covers the legal sector in Spain and Portugal. And literally on LinkedIn, I saw a chap who was a lawyer from Brazil, but he's registered with the Portuguese Bar Association. He shared this post on LinkedIn saying that he was about to get a positive decision in the court system, taking the CEF to court and effectively suing them because he said it was illegal, the delaying. It's exactly what you guys are saying, delaying the process and it costing people, so much money, so much stress, pain, etc., etc. One, and then I wrote this article in the magazine, and then he started to get, because people didn't know how to contact him, they started to contact me saying, "Can you please put us in touch with this lawyer?" And all the lawyers in Portugal started to get really nervous about this. In fact, I had people calling me saying, "Is this guy real? Because our lawyer's saying that he's not." I'm like, "Yeah, he is real. Here's his contact details. Go for it." Yeah. So it was the thing you've got to imagine is that if you're a corporate law firm in Portugal and you have a small immigration practice, if you're representing the government in a number of cases, you're not going to be. It's not going to be of any interest to go after them in court, right? Because you've got a massive conflict of interest. So this guy effectively left the law firm he worked for, and he's an independent practitioner now. That's why he's able to do it. Yeah. So that's definitely been a game changer for sure. Maybe they've started to up their game a bit and process these applications quicker, but it's still a nightmare.
Thank you for that, Michael. All of this going on behind the scenes, amazing. So thank you, Michael. Back to you, Tig. Then you were only going to come on at 8:50 and tell us a little bit about this citizenship problem for Brits. Are you all right sticking around to discuss this with us?
Yeah, I'm fine actually this morning.
All right.
But going back to what you were saying about the lawyers, and I think that is it's a big thing, isn't it? Because we all say, everybody knows everybody in Portugal, and it was interesting because. And I think that may be one of the reasons why they're so, sort of reluctant to take these cases on. But for me, you see, I just look at it the opposite way. I just turn it on its head, which is, well, do you want the biggest case probably in the history of Portugal? Sort of like when we couldn't get the cards, we were trying to get lawyers to help that, and it would have been absolutely massive.
I can give you the name of a law firm later on if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Take them on because they're having great success with them, and they're not afraid of them either. Like they're in so deep at this stage, regardless of how to say it, they can't go any harder against CEF than they already are. So they're just expecting it now at this stage, and they're doing great work. So I can tell you who they are later if you want.
That's fabulous.
My goodness.
Talk to me afterwards, yeah. But the issue that we've actually got at the moment, going back to why you asked me to come on, Carl, was because of course. Once you've got 5 years residency, and there's also other conditions that you need to apply for residency, which Michael obviously knows as well. You have to have a language requirement, more than 5 years in Portugal, legal residency. I hasten to add, guys, residency that's proved.
Right. What do you mean by that? Just to make sure you've been here all the time and you haven't contravened any particular condition?
You have to prove that you've been here for more than 5 years. And
if you had a residency for 5 years, because the golden visa don't have to be. They only have to be here 7 days on any given year. So it's to prove that you were part of your residency program, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, that you tick the conditions. Okay.
Can you elaborate on that a bit, Bobby? So you're saying with the golden visa,
so the criteria for the golden visa was that it changed twice, but basically it's the same as every other residency. The only difference is that the golden visa residency allowed you that you only had to stay on average of 7 days a year in Portugal, it's actually now 14 days over a 2-year period to renew your residency card. So you didn't have to be a tax resident in Portugal at any given time. You could actually have property here, and you had to have some kind of a connection, which means that you had property. But on the 5th year, and Carol sent me a message yesterday, how many passports have we citizenship? About 200 people have achieved citizenship through doing the Golden Visa program without actually having to live in Portugal.
So effectively, could have stayed in Portugal 35 days in 5 years, and they can get citizenship.
Yes, but now they were the early days guys. The guys that the moment that came in, say 3 or 4 years into the program, they're having a nightmare of even getting renewals and so on and so forth. And a lot of places now that Schengen visa in Portugal used to be no problem getting a 5-year Schengen visa. You're dealing with people that UK probably never has an issue getting the Schengen visa because it's not in Schengen. But once you go outside of that sort of spray and you go to the Middle East, Far East, etc., Schengen visas are not so readily available, and they don't have to say why they don't give it. And if you refused it at any time for any reason without being notified, you can never get it again. So you're then barred from traveling into the Schengen area. Yeah. So we've had people who've applied for a Schengen visa because their residency card had ran out and can't get the Schengen visa, and they won't say why. And who
oversees that then? Is that an EU
everyone,
department?
all European countries, all the Schengen countries, all basically get to say yay or nay. If one says nay, you don't get the Schengen visa. And if you come up on a computer with a name that might bounce similar to another name somewhere else or whatever it is, this guy just has to say, no, I don't like the look of him. And that's it.
That's it. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, so you related to that, didn't you, Bobby? Where people got detained. Yeah. Then, of course, there's the system that the EU have, the Schengen area have, which bans people from the Schengen area. Those people that got detained, one of the real issues is are they on that system? And of course, they were having to fly to the UK to try and get back to Portugal, which is in the Schengen area. They were having to fly back, and it was like, were they going to be let in? Because
let me get this straight then. They could be living here, have bought a house, maybe started a business, got kids in school. They go away for a holiday in the Schengen area. The border patrol of another country says, we don't like the look of this. You haven't got the right stuff. And potentially they could be banned from the Schengen area, having been flown back or flown themselves at their own cost back to the UK and never allowed back in the Schengen unit again.
That's exactly what happened.
What?
And it was, and basically what happened was, of course, was they then got flights from the UK to Portugal because the Portuguese border guards got, CEF, whatever, the majority understood the paperwork.
Yeah.
That's why they were let in.
The thing as well is that you have another issue is that even though, like you actually mentioned earlier on, Carl, that you get a letter from the government to say that, sorry, we're delaying your residency card, but here, show them this letter at the airport of entry or exit towards Portugal, and they don't recognize it. They don't care what it is. It's not a residence, it's not an official residency document, so they won't let you board the plane. Like we've had, I said to you a long time ago that the problem with the Portugal system is simple. They don't do what they promise. They bring out these different systems and they bring out these different programs, and then basically political things change within the meantime. And the people who actually have to do the work, the CEF and the other departments have to do the work, are not notified, number one, and then won't, do the work that they don't have to do because no one's told me how to do it yet. I'm waiting on an answer for that. And you've had people who've invested vast amounts of money into Portugal to do these particular programs, etc. And then I've had so many people just quit the program because it just wasn't worth the hassle. Now, the good news is I have for both the British and for the people outside of Europe, there is another way to do it. There is another way to do it. And you don't have to go through half the loops or half the fees or whatever it is. And it's not a colossal amount of money like a golden visa. And everyone's talking about the D7 and the D7 where you have to move here and so on and so forth. You can do a D7 visa. But the D2 visa will actually allow you to move to Portugal or be a resident of Portugal without actually having to live here. It gives you all the rights of a resident in Portugal, including the medical, social security medical, because the system is set up in such a way to attract investors into Portugal. And that person then can to create a company and invest in whatever they want to invest in. The snag is they can't be away from Portugal for any given 8 months at a time. That's it.
Is that 8 months? Is that 8 months in 12 or
8 months? Actually, any 8 months together. So in other words, typically you come to Portugal twice a year. There's no minimum stay. So basically, you come to Portugal, you prove you're in Portugal, you can leave again, come back again after the 8 months, and then you're here for another 8 months. So the rule is 8 months consecutive, you can't be away from Portugal. But part of the D2 is that if your main business is in another country, you don't have to be a tax resident. And we've tried and tested it, and it works.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very old school. The D2 then, it's like vinyl. It's making a comeback.
It's always been there as well, you see. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But that's not, I think we need to take that back a little bit as well, though, because that's for investments, isn't it? So
but the investment is, the mechanism is this. You start a company, and we all know what it's like to start a company here. It's not difficult. And you have an activity. That activity has to have substance, has to trade in doing something. What that could mean is that activity, that company could buy a property, any property at any value, rent it out. That's an actual activity. There's your qualification.
Yeah, but the point that I'm actually trying to make is it's going to take quite a bit of money to do that. And there's a number of people that won't have those sort of finances to be able to do that. I mean, if you've got retirees who just want to retire here and buy a home, then they're not going to be able to do that.
You don't also have to buy a home. So, for example, they can come up with an activity that creates a business. It could be, for example, they rent a house, they rent a room, they have it. There's a lot of different ways to look at how an activity or how a business can be. It doesn't have to involve huge cash flow. And for example, the Golden Visa program used to cost about €11,500 per person over the 5-year program, plus the large legal fees and so on and so forth. This doesn't involve anything like it. So I think for people who are looking at a sort of a less stress, less hassle-free way of doing it, and can operate a company, you know what it costs to operate a company in Portugal as well. It's a couple of €100 a year for the accountant and so on and so forth, if you have a right accountant. So what I would say is that there is alternatives to what's there at the minute, and everyone is going. The Golden Visa was the big sale because that's what made everyone money. But the A2 is there, the V2 is there, that has been there before, and it can be, to use a better word, manipulated to basically work in your favor, provided you follow the rules and follow the.
Yeah, most people that I know that they just want a simple, how do we get into Portugal? You know, and
fair enough. That's my point. It's not being simple. This is simple.
Yeah.
And
have your card in 3
it's
months.
a broadside. It's quite amazing. So, Bobby, thank you for introducing that to the mix. But I'm not sure I can cope with any more surprises this morning.
You just drop at one point. I have to say, you drop.
There you go. There was one surprise.
This is just burst in with a surprise as well. Look, I can't take it. I'm going to Hulk out like Tig did that time and write to all the British papers. Oh man. Okay, so that's amazing news, Bobby. Tig, thank you. And you're kind of still mid-flow here, aren't you, with giving us the backstory? I think we've got Carl Hyde who wants to join us to talk about his citizenship journey as well. So we'll bring him on in a little while. But Tig, carry on. Where did we get to?
Basically, if you've been a resident for more than 5 years in whatever format, all the different conditions, which Michael is well aware of as well, language requirement, previous convictions, you have to have checks, all sorts of stuff. So anyway, once you've got the paper together, that's fine, you submit it. But the issue is, of course, is that going back to SEF, their system, if you become a Portuguese national, get your citizenship, and you also come under the withdrawal agreement, their system doesn't allow dual status, which of course you are because you're a Portuguese citizen, but you also come under the withdrawal agreement. So you then therefore can't prove because what you do is when you get a citizenship, they take your WABC off you. So you can't prove it. So this is the
Right.
latest.
And this is another one of those things, isn't it, where there's the political puff and,
Yes.
taking things in a new direction. And then behind the tail of that is where all this detail and long grass is that's causing personal suffering and misery for people. And this is the latest bit, because we're getting there now, aren't we, where people want to become citizens, and the threat now of the difficulty with the dual citizenship as a result of that, because the system is not set up for it.
Yeah, because and basically it isn't, and I mean, as somebody pointed out to me quite rightly, it isn't the fact that if it's not just the fact that you can be, you can have your withdrawal agreement biometric card, but you can be an Irish citizen. But you as well, but their system does not allow both statuses to
Portuguese one.
Because what happens is, the SEF system is for residency, isn't it? Basically, for immigrants. It's for immigrants. Well, you're no longer in their head. You no longer need a residency document because you're a citizen of Portugal. So we take it off you. It's a simple.
But I've got people who have multiple citizenships, including Portuguese, legally.
Absolutely. No, it's not the legal side of being able to get citizenship. You can get it. I can retain my UK citizenship as well as getting Portuguese. And as Michael and I have both done, we've applied for citizenship. But what I'm saying is that and it's under in the Justice Department that you apply for citizenship. You can get citizenship. But what I'm saying is they then take off you your residency card, because in their head, you no longer need it because you're a citizen of Portugal, which is understandable. I get the theory. However, we come under the withdrawal agreement. Therefore, we may well need to prove in the future that we come under the withdrawal and have no proof because they've taken our card off us.
I see what you mean. Okay, so you've got your original nationality, you've got your new nationality, but you've got no record thereafter of coming through the post-Brexit scenario, which has grandfathered rights and responsibilities and all the rest of it that go with it.
Right. And also don't forget, because like I was saying to you, the withdrawal agreement is so new, there are a stack of cases going through courts waiting to happen for stated cases where, our rights are going to change in the future and whatever. Well, how do you prove those rights? The additional problem that other people are having that I would really like to mention, apart from this, hang on. So let me go back to the citizenship first before I do the 5-year, 10-year card. With citizenship, I completely forgot what I was going to say now.
It's just too much this morning, Tig, isn't it? You're only coming on for 10 minutes to tell us about what was going on, and now look at us.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I'll go on to the 5-year, 10-year card. Hopefully I'll remember what I was going to say about citizenship. The 5-10-year card. Now, if you've got a 5-year, which is called the temporary residency card, there's nothing temporary about it. It's just the name. It's just a label that they stick on, because lots of people get confused. It's not. It just means you've been in Portugal less than 5 years as a legal resident. So that's all it is. Yeah. Then, of course, once you've been here for 5 years, you exchange it for a 10-year card, which then makes it the label they stick on that is that you're permanent. It's throughout EU that these labels are on the card. That's absolutely fine. Once you have more than 5 years legal residency in Portugal, you can leave Portugal under the withdrawal agreement. Caveat, under the withdrawal agreement, you can leave Portugal for up to 5 years and come back and automatically pick up your permanent residency. That's a huge right. It's a huge. If you're 5 years, you're a temporary card holder, it's only 6 months. So if you've got elderly parents in the UK, of course, and you've got a 10-year permanent card, you can go back and you've got 5 years, the way you won't have to go through all the new system of trying to get residency that now exists. So it's huge. What SEF are doing is people had got 5-year cards, obviously needed to exchange it for the WABC. People that had expired 5-year cards, they reissued with another 5-year card instead of a 10-year card. Yeah. How do they prove that they can leave the country for more than 5 years, less than 5 years, up to 5 years? They can't.
They can't, can they? No, right. Okay. So these are all the things that were not foreseen and that we're working through now. We're coming to the end of the show. You've got to come back some other time. And we need to keep an eye on this, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, this is now you've got Chrome on your MacBook. This is fairly straightforward. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. We've got. I mean, I want to balance things up a little bit because this has been a lot of Seth bashing this morning, and understandably so. But I think it's also always right to remember why we're here in the first place and what we love about the country and why we might want to become citizens, notwithstanding these difficulties and doing something about them, which we seem to have gathered a bit of momentum in doing something about it. Michael, sorry, it's been quite a quiet one for you this morning. Have you got
No, it's been great. It's been fantastic to listen to this. It's been really helpful for me. So no, not at all.
That's good to know. Okay, well, you and Carl Hyde here, who joins us on the screen now, is somebody else who. Good morning, Carl. Sorry, you didn't get a round of applause. That's not fair. There you go. So you're in the process. You described this as being through the citizenship process, and it's not been fun. You had a few bumps along the way, but got there in the end. Do you want to tell us briefly, if you will, your experience here?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I started the process in 2020, just as the pandemic had started. And to be honest with you, it was fairly straightforward, but it took much longer than I was told it was going to take. And there were some bumps along the way. So I initially sent all my paperwork in. They have a long list of things that you're supposed to need. I didn't need all of it. A little example of that would be, I used to be in the RAF a long time ago. Some of the documents that I read said if you'd been in the military, then you needed to prove that you were no longer in the military. So I had to get my discharge papers, which was a bit of a pain. Had all that translated and notarized, stamped. When I went to the office to hand everything in, they just looked at that and went, "What's this? Don't need that." So that was kind of a waste of money. But once I had all the documents, they told me it'd take about 6 months for me to be approved. But that wasn't the case. It actually took 2 years, and in that time was basically silence. I couldn't get an update. They told me I could log on.
I think Bobby's got to leave us. So, Bobby, thank you very much. Catch up with you soon on this and more of the news that you gave us. So, cheers, Bobby. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks, Bobby.
And back to and we'll connect you up, Bobby, with Tig at a later date. But Carl, so 2 years of radio silence then, by the sound of it, and you're wondering what on earth's going on.
Well, they told me that you basically get a password and you log onto the website and you get your updates there. But I never actually got that password, so I would go to my local office in Almada and was always advised. It's a strange thing that happens a lot in Portugal. The security guard is the person that's handing out advice, which is rather bizarre.
Yes, true. Yes, we've all experienced that.
They know everything and know nothing at the same time. And they say, like, "Well, you'll get your pass at some point." I'm like, "Well, it's been a year. I don't have a password. I can't get any updates." Anyway, it took 2 years just before I actually got approved, before it was processed, and I got mine through marriage, so it was perhaps easier than it is for some people. We've been married for 7 years when I applied. I got a letter from them saying you need to send us your Brazilian criminal record. So I was like, "What? I've never been to Brazil. What's this about?" So apparently, when I completed the forms, I didn't have a translator with me because it was during COVID, so my wife couldn't go in with me. They sat with me, went through the form, ticked all the boxes. Apparently, one of the assistants there had ticked the being resident in Brazil box, and because of that, I had to go back to the office. They were insisting that I should start the process again or go and get my Brazilian criminal record, which of course doesn't exist. I've never been to Brazil. And in the end, I had to really sort of force the issue and make them accept that it was their error. But that was not easy. They did not want to do that. Once I'd done that, it was kind of approved. Once I got the letter, which is basically pretty much on the 2 year point, letter through the post, with a Portuguese birth certificate saying, Carl Hyde, basically you're now Portuguese. You're born again in Portugal.
That's amazing. You get a birth certificate. That's an interesting thing, isn't it?
But then it was another 5 or 6 months after that when I finally got the card, which is very nice to have, but what it is, it's just a long process and there's a big gap in the middle. So once all your paperwork is submitted, if you've done it correctly, I think you just have to sit back and be patient, and it will happen. It won't happen any more quickly for phoning and badgering. You'll just send yourself, you'll make
you have
yourself.
to go with it.
It puts the bottom of the pile, don't you, if you keep doing that? Anyway, but going back, Carl, did you, I take it that you had to do a UK criminal records check?
Nope. Oh, that Carl, sorry.
Well, I did actually, yeah. I did the UK CRB check. Everything that I did, I had notarized, so I had it translated and notarized. I did that with everything. In fact, that was a mistake I made. I sent them my birth certificate. For some reason, I don't know why. I must have had a bit of brain freeze. I sent them the original document and what they needed, the translated and notarized version. So everything that you do, translate, notarize, and send that in. But did they ask you? I think you because I know that sort of like the wait time at the minute is anything between 2 and 3 years.
That's what I've heard.
Think that you have you were actually, believe it or not, fast tracked because it was through marriage. So you may have still been waiting.
Well, I'm not sure about that because I don't think they kind of discriminate on that kind of basis. When I actually first went to the office in Almada to ask, we want to start the process to get citizenship, they said, "Oh, you've not lived here. You've got to live here for 5 years." So we were like, "No." And we actually had, my wife's aunt was with us, so there was no language barrier. It's like, "No, we've been married for 7 years." And they said, "No, you've got to have lived here for 5 years." So I said, "No, the rules are that if you've been married, I think it was for over 5 years, then, I'm entitled to citizenship." And they actually said, and these were their words, "Well, you might want to go to the Lisbon office because they might do it like that in Lisbon, but in this office, we do it this way." And that's literally what they said. So basically, we've got our own rules and we're going to do it our way. And again, I had to push back on that and say, "No, these are the rules. These are the rules for the entire country, and I have a right." And again, you've got to push politely, but you've got to get your message across.
Absolutely.
Somebody else, that's another thing to do. If you're not getting the answer that you want and that you deserve, then maybe come back a different day and speak to somebody else, because that happens a lot.
It's one of the things that I do say to people: whatever you do, be polite, because if you start getting cross, you will get absolutely nowhere. But if you're polite and sit there and be firm, just polite, "No, this is a system," and you just sit there. And I've done that a couple of times, and I have. But going back to what you actually asked me on the show for, which we still haven't discussed.
Amazing, isn't it? You've got to come back, Tig. I think we need to do a regular update on this, but go on.
Was the fact that the actually taking office of our WABCs with citizenship, and which and I take it, you had yours taken off you, didn't you, Carl?
The Carl Hyde, right? Yeah.
Sorry, what taken off me?
Your residency card.
Well, I didn't have one because I got this last year, so I'm trying to think with regards to residency. I actually didn't.
Your citizenship. Yeah, your citizenship preempted your.
I still get emails telling me to go for my residency appointment, which I just ignored because I was in that process.
Okay.
He's Portuguese now. He's Portuguese now.
You had EU residency. You hadn't got the WABC residency. No, that's okay. But basically, what it is, of course, is that it isn't just Portugal that are taking people's WABCs off them. We've got it across Europe. We have it across Europe. And I was asked the other day, is because I'm in the system and whatever, and the Portugal has been spoken to about this. As far as I'm aware, it is still happening that people are having their WABCs taken off them. And I was asked if I would be a test case.
Right.
And of course the answer was yes. Gosh, I've been doing this so long now, and I'm probably in so much trouble anyway. Why not?
Take it for the team. Take it for the team, Tig. Yes.
Yeah, it's it's not going to make any difference to me now, because sort of Portuguese government are well aware of who I am. So
seriously though, do you fear some sort of prejudice on that basis? I mean, I can understand if you do.
I don't know if I fear it. I don't know if I fear it. I'm aware, obviously, that because of, I mean, when you just think back to, I mean, forget the 5 years before this. If you just think back to last year in August, I mean, it was a 3-week press campaign that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, it forced the government's hand, and they know who I am.
Your header was well and truly above the parapet.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, is my head above the parapet. It's, I don't know. I mean, there's absolutely. I mean, I'm like Carl. You know, there's absolutely no reason why citizenship could be refused. Absolutely no reason at all. It's yeah, you know, it's just people get upset at times, don't they? And I've upset.
They do. Now, I need to conclude the show here, and on the basis that I would love to invite you back again. It's been amazing talking to you this morning. We've learned a lot, and I've found out things I didn't know. I feel like I've been sort of blissfully ignorant and unaware. Ignorance has been
good. It's,
I'm glad of that, but I'm also very concerned about the difficulties some other people have been having, and this is a good platform to discuss those and get them addressed. So do please come back and do that. Thanks, Carl, for joining us. I want to kind of sort of, you know, we've kind of zeroed in, haven't we, on some of the difficulties. I'd like to zoom back out if we can, because Jason's made some very interesting points this morning as well. You know, he says, after listening, I'm beginning to think we are incredibly lucky with all the different agencies to obtain our residency under the withdrawal treaty, because it's all relative, isn't it? It took a little time, but it was relatively stress-free. Thank you, Portugal. And again, notwithstanding the difficulties that some individuals have faced, and I think it's important that we do something to help those people. And the bigger point here that I would agree with Jason is I don't think that the problems being described concerning immigration processing is endemic to Portugal. That's true as well, isn't it? Like you made mention, Tig, of all the states of the Schengen area will be operating in a similar way, and there will be some, you know, various spectrum of prejudices and residues that affect British people in relation to the EU. But we are talking about a mass migration of people around the world. We're talking about bulging, breaking immigration forces, and some going through a reorganization like CEFAR. It's a right old mess, isn't it? And we have to remember that, you know, it is the kind of government front end that we're dealing with here, and they're not doing a very good job of it. And it's the government front end of a country we absolutely love, which makes all of this trouble hopefully worthwhile in the end. Is that how you see it, T?
I know. I mean, obviously, because I just deal with the withdrawal agreement. So, and because I lead British in Portugal, we regularly have meetings between the group leaders across the EU, across the Schengen area. So, and we compare, and I mean, this morning, for instance, there's it's being presented to the EU Commission, all the issues in Portugal. Yeah, I was asked to do a report so they can, all the issues are there for them to see. It's, you know, it is what it is, but also all the issues that are in the other EU countries. And there's quite a few countries that are taking our WABC's office. It's not just Portugal. And I just think they just don't know. They probably just do not know.
It's a mess that it's a mess in, like a work in progress. It's a mess in progress.
Things haven't been planned for properly, and then agreements are coming to an end and things like this, and there's just nothing in place, perhaps to suitably replace what's gone before.
You're right. It's a common story. It's a common story, isn't it? This is not unusual that this hasn't been thought through correctly, and CEF are going through their own reorganisation as well.
But I think that with CEF on this one, I think it's just they just don't know, because they take everybody's residency off them. Doesn't matter who they are. It's just part of the process. But nobody's told them that people that come under the withdrawal agreement, you shouldn't be doing that.
Apart from you, Tig. So keep up the good work. Telling the government and its immigration force what should be happening. Thank you for doing all that work behind the scenes. And sorry it's been so stressful, and you've had these terrible moments and hearing of these terrible, things that happen to people during this process. Please use this platform and the program here to bring more publicity and also how we can help people, basically. I mean, that's the bottom line, is how we can help and support people who find themselves in these difficult situations. Tig, great to meet you in person. I'm sorry to cut it off there, but I do have to go to Lisbon now. It's a busy day today. Good luck with how it turns out with the EU Commission report as well. Keep us informed. Carl, thank you for joining us. Thank you both. A big round of applause to both. And thanks for all the comments that I didn't get to today. So we'll leave it there, and we will be back tomorrow morning with the Portuguese. I'm sure I'll have something to say about it. And Katia Lima, who is asking the question, what is it to be Portuguese, essentially? Something that Carl Hyde might come back and talk about, given that he's Portuguese now. Take care. Bye for now. Thank you, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic